Welcome to the One Community Local Leaders podcast, and I'm Matt Scarborough, cyclist and lawyer from Bicycle Accident Law.
And I'm Leo Brasino, special education teacher and swim coach.
In our podcast, we'll be featuring leaders throughout the area, and we want to know what makes them tick. So do us a favor, subscribe, listen, share, and we're going to grow this thing together. Hey, Matt Scarborough, Bicycle Accident Law here. We're so excited to have Brooke Bennett, gold medalist from our area, on the podcast this week. She's a great friend of the community and of Leo's, and I'm so very excited to listen to this, as I'm sure you will get a lot out of it. So help us out. Please subscribe, like it, share with your friends. We'll see you next week.
Welcome to One Community Local Heroes podcast, sponsored by Bicycle Accident Law, Matt Scarborough, and we have no other than the amazing, incredible human Brooke Bennett with us. And of course, you have to say always that she's a 3-time gold medalist, and besides that, she's been building up so many great things in our community through the years, wearing different hats, different roles. And so I'm just gonna let her talk to us about whatever she wants to, and what the project is happening right now with Clearwater.
Well, thanks, Leo. It's funny because you mentioned the word legacy, and I think from my perspective, sometimes it's hard to see that. I was so young during my competitive peak, and I accomplished so much, but it was just what felt right. It was just what felt good, and I'm completely honored and love the fact that I was able to compete and do that. And I think it came from my parents being very supportive, and my very blue collar family. Mom worked, had a very understanding boss, and so she was really able to adjust her schedule to anything that I needed. And she had her boss was semi-retired, and he basically was like, whatever she needs. He was almost like a second grandfather to me. And then my dad worked for Tico for 40 years and retired, and they were like, okay, well, if you want to swim, then we'll do everything that you can. And I think most people that know my story, the push and the compassion came really from my grandfather at the very beginning. And unfortunately, I lost him just 2 months before the 96 Olympic Games. And I think from being just turning 16 really, to now, being 43, I've gone back in time to kind of accept what happened during that time, because the most important thing for me during that time, when I lost my grandfather suddenly, and it was just 2 months before the 96 Olympics, all I heard was him in my head. There is no time to grieve. There is no time to be saddened by my not being there, not having my presence, but just the fact that I knew that he was there, and he talked on my shoulder the entire time. So I am very blessed that he saw that, I would say, talent very early on, and saw that I just loved being in the water. They had a pool in their backyard, and that's kind of where I started, and was just the mermaid at start.
That's
and
amazing.
So it's fun to, everything. I think everybody knows me now, and even my boss is, the resident mermaid. She's got to get her swims in. So I've certainly carried that on long past my Olympic career.
That's amazing. And then, when I was talking to you about the legacies, that all these years you've been doing things and supporting Swim Across America, supporting different events, different I would say milestones for even other people, and including events that we're doing locally together to honor Tom McConnor, who we lost. and now I don't know. Now the drowning in Florida is scary.
It is, and I think I've always had a passion. I mean, I actually have a few pictures from back in my early days. I mean, I was 14 to 16 years old in training, and it would be a friend of a friend who had kids, and hey, can you come over to the house and, teach them some lessons? And it was just very early on where I was like, sure. I mean, there's just a passion for the water. And then as I had my kids, I kind of took that journey to, start my swim school and really, not take the passion of being a competitive swimmer, not even looking at it like that. But I mean, like where we sit today, Leo, and I'm looking out the window and all I can see is water across the Tampa Bay. And, as our population grows, as our temperatures soar, it takes everybody to the water. And, there is a spike, and those families that can financially afford to get their kids in swim lessons, I think over the last decade, there's been more talk and more awareness of it. So families are doing more to get their kids into some type of water safety, survival, or swim lesson. And, my biggest message is it's not about creating the next competitive swimmer. It's not about, having an Olympian teach my kid because then they have a chance of becoming an Olympian. It just doesn't work that way. But what it does is it makes our kids aware, and it makes them safe. And the water does not say you're wealthy or you're poor or you're this race or what race. It doesn't matter. And we've seen it in the news recently with an NFL player losing his daughter. We saw a few weeks ago an NFL player lose his life to trying to get back from a sandbar in northern Florida. So again, it doesn't matter. And interesting enough, of course, every time there's a drowning in the news, and I'm sure for you the same, because you're around water and drawn to it, people are having questions and people are making comments. And I think the most interesting thing to me was the NFL player. Oh, he's an athlete, like he was on the New England Patriots, and he's so strong and he's so fit. The water is not like that. The water does not think that. And so I think it's just educating people more on if they're caught, the most important thing that I can say, and even when teaching babies how to be water safe, it's how calm they are. It doesn't mean if they're crying or they're whatever, but it's teaching their bodies to just kind of give into the water and flow. And I think, so it's the education of parents to babies, but I think it's the education to people in general. Like, do not fight the water. No. Fighting it is the worst thing that you can do. And so, for me, being able to help kids and think that I've given awareness to kids, and I can't tell you, over the years, I get text messages, and knock on wood, they are all positive, but I will get a text message after a weekend or a family on vacation, and little Johnny or little Susie was doing this and slipped in the pool, and before I can even turn around and grab him or her, they had spun and attempted to grab the wall, or I saw them attempting to do exactly what you've taught them in swim lessons. I actually had a family who happened to be videoing, and their youngest son, I've taught all three, their youngest son, he had on a life jacket, they were on a boat, but he was on the back of it and had slipped off the back of the boat. Granted, he was wearing a life vest, which is proper, but in the video, he actually does fall in and act like, as he hits the water, he rolls over and puts his hand back on the side of the boat, like instantly in 5 seconds.
That's amazing.
And it's just an instinct that you're teaching them. And my belief on that is babies are in a womb of fluid for 40 weeks. So when babies are born, the most natural instinct for them is the water. The sooner we can expose them and get them into the water, we grab on to that natural instinct of holding their breath and all those types of things. And so you can teach them and they can progress. And everything that I've taught in my swim school is it's the same progression as a baby goes. When you first have a newborn baby, you're giving them time on their back, on their play mat, and they're playing. And then they're going to have tummy time. And then they're going to start pushing themselves up. And then they're going to start crawling. And then they're going to stand up and start walking. So in those natural developments of a baby, we should be teaching swim lessons within that same progression which means the first thing you're doing is putting them on their back. When are they going to be the most comfortable, and what's the position that you need a baby to be in if they fall into the water? On their back. They already know that. And then as we know, if you have a toddler, and I'm going to go back a few years because my boys are almost 9 and 6 now, but I remember this, fighting to change your toddler's diaper. And you're literally putting your arm down and your leg down and you're trying to get the diaper on because now they're crawling or walking and they don't want to be on their back anymore. So if you're trying to teach them to float at that progression of their development, it's much harder. Versus a 6 to 12 month old, they're happy and can be as on their back and the world is like their oyster, right? So I've just tried to take those simple philosophies and teaching, our little ones and our families to be safe.
That's a great point about the diaper. That's really good. I never thought about that, but
Well, baby Kyle's a little young, but he'll get to this when they don't want to be in their car seat. I mean, I stood in a Target parking lot in the summer one time trying to put Boss into the car seat, and he was having a tantrum, right? And you're just like, you're spent. Like, you just don't know what to do. And I'm literally like bracing this kid, and he's arching his back, and you're like, people must think I'm torturing my kid. But it's funny now that I'll be doing something and I'll see a mom pushing her son in a stroller, and he's just having a tantrum. And like the only thing that I do, and I smile, and if the mom and I make eye contact, I look at her and I'm like, give her a thumbs up. You don't have to say anything, but it's like mom to mom, parent to parent, like just nod, be like, you're okay, give them a thumbs up. I'm here for you, you're doing great.
That's amazing. Yeah, so like right now with baby Kai, what I say is like, let's go change the diaper, and he goes to the room.
Okay, very nice.
And I start singing songs and make noises, and he looking at me like, just change my diaper, okay?
Right. Like, let's just get this over with, please.
But I see the difference. When he was younger, it was easy for me to get in the water with him and turn him around. Now he knows, and we don't have that access to the pool like I did back then. So I guess, it's going to take a little longer now that he knows a little bit of the fear, but...
So don't use the word fear.
Okay, tell me. Yes, thank you.
So again, he doesn't have a fear, and I try it because there's a progression, right? Mm-hmm. And again, I'm just going off of like, there's no book on this. There's no book on parenting. Mm-hmm. There's a certification. You can be certified to teach swim lessons. You can be a certified teacher, you can be anything, a certified coach, whatever, right? But years and years, it's just things that I observe. And I can definitely say, as being a parent and then teaching swim lessons, you observe a lot. And families are like, oh, you're so patient, how do you deal with the kids? I go, unfortunately, my 2 boys get the short end of the stick because I'm so patient with all these other ones. But and as kids progress, and families will see this. So, I say you start swim lessons before 1, mm-hmm. and I say you consistently do it every season until the child's 5. At that point in time, there's no regression season to season, right? And now you basically have a safe swimmer, right? I mean, my boys are, you taught Bjorn, I came back from swimming one day on the beach and Bjorn's side breathing, doing freestyle. I'm like, that's more than I could ever do to him. He never learned well from me, though. Okay. Bjorn, my youngest, always learned better from another instructor, mm-hmm. right? Which is typical, right?
Yeah, right.
Take the parent out of the equation, let somebody else mm-hmm. do it. But that progression, so again, in the beginning, yeah, they're a little fussy, but babies fuss over everything, right? It's their way of communicating. There's no damage to them, promise. Like, they don't remember that. And eventually, you know, I'll come into the house and the baby or the toddler like runs the other direction and hides. And then there's that one day that I come in and they're welcoming me with open arms and they want me to stay. They're sad when I leave. And it happens to all of them. I go, one day they will love me. One day, right? Yeah. Always happens. You know, I'm batting 100 on that one, I promise you. They don't fear the water. When they go through that age and they're getting to the toddler phase, they now understand what I'm making them do, right? So when you get into a swim lessons, it's work. It's like coming into work. You have a job to do. They have a job to do. Now they're aware of, oh, if I fall into the pool or whatever, this is work. This is what I'm going to have to do. So when they start to step back from the water, it's not a fear. Look at it as a respect. They're respecting it. So they're going, oh, I'm not ready. So therefore, if that child just wants to splash on the steps or whatever, they have now learned their comfort zone rather than just the water being a free-for-all, because it's not. At any level, at any time, I can swim the length of the Tampa Bay. I can go down to Alligator Lighthouse and swim. I, too, have to respect the water. And I am in just as much danger as anybody else when I get into that water if I'm not smart and I don't listen to myself. So no matter how qualified I think I am, how good of a swimmer I think I am, anything can happen at any given moment.
Definitely, you have to respect it. So, yeah, I remember when I was teaching baby Q and Amelia, and then Q didn't, like, he did run away all the way. And then,
out of the door.
Yeah, but then later he was the one, he will cry because Amelia was going first. Or, and, and it's so cool.
Then they get to the time you have siblings and you have to trade them off. Okay, this week you go first, next week you get to go first.
And then it was so cool to see the progression, like you said, though. It's good to know. I mean, I've been teaching lessons all my life and I use that word that I shouldn't, and I'm glad you.
I like the word respect.
Respect.
It's not a fear, because
it's
not a fear. Like, I can have a fear of snakes.
True.
And me holding a snake or me seeing a snake does not make that fear go away.
Exactly.
Still don't like them. I do not like. I'm claustrophobic. I have a fear of being stuck in a tight, close knit or can't get out of something. Like that is never going to go away. We all have fears. There are fears of things, right? A child, a baby, a toddler will eventually grow out of that as they get more knowledge on what they're doing.
I love it because this is something in different cultures see things differently. And like my culture, and then I know other cultures see swimming as a priority.
Right.
And then and in my case, when I'm growing up, I didn't have access to a pool because we grew up really, really poor, and so it wasn't a priority, and my mom didn't see it that way until I was like 13, where I was kind of like, I decided I need to learn how to swim. And I did, and then 2 years later, I was already competing in nationals because I was so passionate about it. I loved it. And so is that something that are you facing right now with all the programs that you're doing with the elementary schools? Like, the parents don't think it's important, or how's that approach?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good transition. So, you know, through swimming and through life, you get all of these amazing opportunities. And back in late 21, I was approached by Kevin Dunbar, who is the executive director of CFY, known as Clearwater for Youth, for about 50 years. We took that and kind of rebranded, really kind of in the midst of COVID, and went to CFY, serving the youth of Pinellas County. And I was approached by Kevin, who we have known each other for many years, back to his Temple Terrace days when he was the head of Parks and Recs there, back in the height of my swimming career. And his question was, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I was like, what do you mean? And so he basically offered me a position with CFY, and I took my time processing it, and I guess maybe kind of made him sweat it out a little bit, but it was obviously, he was very persistent in a way of knowing I felt like you were right for the position, and I accepted and started in January of 22 as the development manager. So CFY is a nonprofit youth foundation, and we facilitate youth sports, education. We have an amazing education program. We've branched out and started supporting arts and culture. And then, of course, in 22, Kevin had in his back pocket and presented to me as my first kind of project was to start and launch a Title I elementary school. And so if you're not familiar with Title I, it is a federally funded program for the education system, formerly kind of known as free and reduced lunches. So schools within really the country, but we'll focus on Pinellas County, are earmarked to be those schools and populated with those families that need some type of financial assistance. So it's those lower income areas. And so these kids basically get to go to school through the Pinellas County school system, but they're also getting breakfast, lunch, and a snack, or they can roll into like a free or reduced after care program. And that's all basically through Title I. So the Title I water safety program is the same thing. Us looking at those elementary schools in Pinellas County that are listed as Title I, speaking to the principals, and then working with the cities or communities that are close to those elementary schools. So in 22, we launched 2 schools, and we partnered with the city of Clearwater. We did Bel Air Elementary, and we did Skycrest Elementary. And then the first part of this year, and this last school year that just finished up in the first part of 23, we added and we did 2 more schools. So we had a total of 4 schools. So from January until the kids got out of May in 23, we did 4. So we added to that Eisenhower, and we added in McMullen Booth. Now coming back in the fall when school starts up, we have projected and we have on the agenda to do 2 more schools. And what we are doing is from kindergarten through 2nd grade, we are offering a 2-week water safety program to those children, and this is during their actual school day. So this is completely unique in its own because we are working a relationship with Pinellas County Schools. Mm-hmm. We are working with the principals of these schools. We're obviously working with the cities and the communities so that their lifeguards, swim instructor, staff are able to facilitate these lessons. We are getting a bus to pick the children up at school, take them to the pool where they get a 30-minute water safety lesson on their scheduled PE day. And elementary school students take PE 3 times a week. So in a 2-week program, they're getting 6 water safety lessons. So really specific, I said water safety. This is not a guaranteeing that we're teaching the kids how to swim. Mm-hmm. In our pilot year of 2022, which was about 600 students, we basically observed and were said to say that 80% of these students that came in on their first lesson would be classified as unsafe in and around water. I watched the first day. We were actually at the Long Center, and I was watching a group of kids in the water from upstairs. And just because of my passion, you would be the same. Mm-hmm. You kind of have to turn and walk away because you know the dangers of it. And then at the end of those 2 weeks, again, looking at those children again, we would say that only 20% of them now would be considered unsafe. In the 4 schools that we've completed this year so far, it was 1,300 students, almost 7,000 water safety lessons were provided. And wow. It only happens, obviously, through CFY, obviously with the partners and the relationships that we have with the school system and the principals of these elementary schools. JWB has stepped up, Juvenile Welfare Board mm-hmm. has stepped up to help fund the cities and the communities the instructor cost. And just to put it into perspective, in order for us to do 1 school, the cost of this is roughly about $15,000. So for my job for CFY, it's very great to go out and say, and we love to do this. But but it takes me hitting the ground and working on grants. We had a grant come in last year from Florida Blue that I submitted. We're working on getting that same grant and asking for more. So we're constantly going out, and my job is constantly going out looking for partners, looking for donations, looking for grants that I can submit under our umbrella as a nonprofit, because this is a program that CFY sees very important, and our board and our mission has completely bought into it. And as we go into 2024, because we are now CFY serving the youth of Pinellas County, we are already in communications about expanding this program into St. Pete and then north out of Clearwater.
Still in Pinellas County for
All
now.
CFY is all in Pinellas County.
Yeah.
There have been talks, and it has very, very limited, very behind the scenes. We've been approached like, could you come north and go to Pasco? Would you come over? And CFY has a long history. Really in Clearwater, we've branched out. So our focus is we have to get things right in Pinellas County
First.
where we are first. But that does not mean that we wouldn't love for this nonprofit and our mission to be seen really within the greater Tampa Bay area. We're very lucky. CFY operates and we have an endowment. So all of our administration costs are covered by our endowment, so that every dollar that comes in supports a child. And that's just one part of what we do. I mean, our giving this year in youth sports will reach about $450,000. We're close to $500,000 over the last 2 years in our education and post-secondary scholarship. And so when you say full circle and you say legacy and kind of where I am at now, I think if I leave a legacy, the great thing is the Olympic thing. That's awesome, and I'll always have that on my resume. But now being involved in a youth nonprofit foundation, I mean, a nonprofit world is very interesting, and I don't think very many people really grow up or have the ambition to think that they're going to fall into the nonprofit world. And then here I am coming up on 2 years, and it's that position where I go, I see this for 20 years. Like, I see this as my last stepping stone. So back to that conversation that Kevin and I had, almost 2 years ago is what are you going to do when you grow up? Well, okay, if I have to grow up, this is what I'm going to do. But, the fact is that I get to go talk about things that I'm very passionate about. Youth sports, swimming was a part of my life from the very get-go. Today's youth, our communities, need our children involved in things, and so that we're breaking down those financial barriers, or families, they don't have to decide between my child getting a new pair of shoes or playing sports, or my child having dinner on the table or playing a season in youth sports. CFY can step in and help with those programs.
That's incredible. So how many children are we talking about? Like,
overall within our foundation, annually we support and help facilitate about 12,000 children through all of our programs.
And then the swimming portion?
So in the swimming portion, with the 4 schools that we've done in 2023 so far, it was 1,300 students, and that's kindergarten through 2nd grade. And then, like I said, we're working, and as soon as school picks back up at the end of 23, as we go into the 2023-24 year, we're going to work on having 2 more schools done this fall. So CFY operates on a calendar year. So even though the school system is a little bit different, we still foresee in our budget for 2023, we would like to facilitate 6 schools, and we've done 4 so far.
Yeah, I remember when you took the position, you were telling me, and you were talking to me about like how many children, and I was so impressed because there's a need for that. And I work with homeless kids for the longest time, and it's just the social status is something that is very impactful, and so much pressure on these kids that all they need and deserve is to be playing and be happy and learn skills like this one, and don't worry about the pair of shoes that they're wearing or how they're dressed, and so I think this is something that I was talking to Eric Hall, actually, that he knows you and you know him, and we mentioned your name on the podcast last time, and he was really happy, and of course very admiration and for you and respect we were talking about the confidence, you build the confidence, and talking about that respect that you were saying earlier, that when you're confident, you can do many things, including, feeling confident to go and swim and feel better. So
yeah, I think it is important. I mean, I think what we need to bring, and as a father, myself as a mom, and for us, it's very easy for us to see, turning on the news, all the negative things that are going on, or all the negative things that our kids can and will be exposed to out of our control. And again, there's no book. You're given the opportunity to guide them the best that you can. And in a sense, I get to do that within CFY, is you're giving these children the opportunity to not feel like they're stuck in a specific peg hole. Like, they can be out playing youth football. They can, wear the same uniform that their teammates are wearing, and that's part of the funding that CFY does within our grants with the youth sports programs, or in our post-secondary scholarship, where high school seniors are able to submit for our post-secondary scholarship and get a 10 or a 5-year scholarship over 2 years to attend a university. And one of the things that we introduced 2 years ago in that program is the trades and how important trade schools are. So we're now giving $3,500 trade scholarships, vocational, to be able to do, go to barber school, go to anything that they choose, that it doesn't necessarily have to be a degree at a 4-year university, but to go get educated to do plumbing or to be an electrician. Or Duke Energy has a great program too, where young kids are coming out of high school and they can go and they can go through the program and then become linemen, which is exactly what my dad did,
Right,
many years
exactly.
ago. But
Yeah.
That's the same thing, that there are so many opportunities for our youth today to be great, and for us not to think like the generation is just going to continue going. We have an opportunity to kind of, I think, revert things back a little bit to old school. And I take that approach with my kids. Like, yes, we've progressed and we have all these things, and we're so, electronically engaged to everything that we do, that everything is tied to a cell phone or a computer or anything like that. But those things can be great if we backtrack it and we get a little old school with it. And that's just kind of my philosophy.
No, that's something that I was thinking as you were talking, is the impact that one of those kids, or many of those kids, will have in their own families. The cousin, the uncle, the aunt, that they don't know how to swim. And then here comes this kid, and again, I know you're saying that it's a water safety program, but they can share that with the family, and it's a trigger effect that is a positive one. That
Right.
I feel like we need more of that.
Yes, and the education is, and so many times, think about it. It's the kids sometimes educating the parents, and that's the same thing with water safety or technology, or I don't know how to do something on my phone, but my 8-year-old does, or something on YouTube, and I'm like, what? And they can maneuver and go through the apps on the TV better than I can. Even my 6-year-old, and I'm like, okay, all right, go ahead, and let's just make sure you're not watching, look over, you're not watching anything you're not supposed to. But it's the education that we're providing for the youth of today, to take that education and take it back home. Because so many times, and you said it, like in your culture, swimming was not seen as an importance. Swimming is not an importance, water safety is. So many times when we're looking at the demographics of the families that we're focusing on in the Title I program, it just continues down that path. So those families were not exposed. They did not learn how to swim. They did not get those lessons. So it's not geared into their mind to, let's not let this continue on. Let's change this. Now that we're able to go into these schools and the parents are signing the permission slip that are given so that their kids can get on a bus and come to a swim lesson, that's a big thing. And I've observed in some of the programs, the first couple days, the classes don't seem as full. And I even asked the principal or the PE teacher that's there on deck while these classes are going on. And, you know, we've sent the permission slips, but we didn't get as many back as we thought. Well, so then what happens in some of these communities, the kids talk, and then the kids talk to the parents, and then the parents talk to the other parent, and then by the third or fourth day, the permission slips are now in. And that's a big thing. I mean, I have to say, okay, so you are a parent, you are a mom, and you don't know how to swim, and that parent, I will say, has a fear of water. I would certainly use that word. They are afraid of water, right? Ever teach an adult how to swim? It's daunting. It is. And you do your best because we have the passion for it, but that is a fear, and that is a whole level of barriers that you're breaking down. So that mom, dad is like, there's no way I'm putting my kid in the water.
Right.
And that's a big trust that they have on the school system, on the instructors, because we're all strangers to their child, right? Kindergarten through second grade. So these kids are 5 to about 8 years old, and we're all strangers to them. So that's a huge thing that we're asking for those families. And the ones that do it, a blessing. And I would say we're probably, with every school, now we get to the point that by the end of the 2-week program, you're probably at like 95%, right? But now they're coming in because the kids are talking about it. One mom talks to another mom, no, my kid did it, we should really do it. So they have to communicate, they have to talk, and then they have to trust us. And I think one of the great things that the city of Clearwater has done in this program is we always try to offer at the end of the 2 weeks. The school sends out information to the parents, and the parents can actually come in if they're available and can get to the pool and see their kid finish on the last day. And those days are important to me, just to go around and let them know, you know, our part of the program, how we're looking to build this program, and then saying thank you for giving us your blessing to ensure that your child can be safe. And we're also giving information about to them that there are programs within the city and other programs to where if you can get there, there are swim lessons available at little to no cost. So I've gotten the message back, oh, this is great. How can I continue it? My son or daughter has had so much fun and they can't stop talking about what they're learning. Or I have younger kids or older kids at home that aren't able to be in this program. How can I get them into the water to be water safe? So now if we've taught 1,300 students that we've only been able to physically give water safety lessons to, if we start adding in a sibling, a mom, that number goes up. And the only way we'll see this is long term, that as our years go forward, as summer comes around, and we know we're going to hear more and more about drownings and fatalities and these types of things, can we as a state, as a county, can we get that statistic down?
Yeah.
And the statistic is 0 to 4, drowning is the leading cause of accidental death. The leading cause of accidental.
Florida is number 1, right? In the US?
In Florida, are between ages, so it changes. 0 to 4 is the leading cause. 5 to 9 is the second leading cause of accidental, meaning it's preventable, right? So there's nothing that we can do, unfortunately, getting in our car and driving. You felt that firsthand from your mom. There's nothing that we can do to prevent that. It's fate. It's what happens, right? Here we're saying this is preventable. So even as a mom, when both my boys were born, you know what they wanted to educate me about in the hospital was SIDS. Nobody ever said anything to me about drowning. But in a time period, yes, SIDS used to be, but in a time period, it flipped. And so for 0 to 4, it's now drowning. And then the second leading cause, 5 to 9, is drowning, which are the kids that we're talking about, that we're focusing on within this program.
Right.
So we got to see those numbers change.
Yeah, we have to, definitely.
Florida, Hawaii, and Louisiana lead the nation in drowning.
No, but you were saying something about like they don't know who you are, but it takes leadership. It takes leadership to and passion. You keep talking about passion, that we're passionate about this. So you're like the right person to do this, because you're move in mountains, whatever you talk to, whoever you need to talk to get it done.
Right.
And love swimming and see how important swimming is. overall, for physically, mentally, spiritually, for everything. It helps you be a better person, I believe. Any sport, but swimming is like the whole complete package, you know. And
I think it's very easy for me to say. I mean, I swam this morning, right?
Yeah.
And
how far do you swim?
Like not far, like 2,000 yards.
Okay.
You know, not a far, just getting in the pool and getting started. I'm scheduled to go down to Alligator Lighthouse in September.
Oh.
And do that again. I took last year off, and scheduled to do that. And I feel like I'm kind of like bouncing around, and I love the open water swims. I always say, gosh, I wish open water swimming was the Olympics in my day. I swam the 400 and the 800. The 400 was a sprint to me. The 800 was, the longest that they swam. I didn't get to swim the mile in the Olympics, but man, if there was open water back in the day.
Oh, I know. I always say that to people.
Oh man, like that's my thing. Like I love it. And, but I love just being out there. And again, when we talk about kids and we talk about getting them exposed to something physical, getting them exposed and getting it as a part of their routine. Like being active for me is a part of who I am. It's a part of like my core, and then everything else happens because I'm active. Like I'll go swim and I'll go run because then I can eat whatever I want. Right? That's a plus.
That's a
which I've always said that's what I like the most about being active. But it's also like mind clarity for me. So I think that again, we get our kids exposed to those things while they're young. It's their routine. My boys are not competitive all the time. Are they swimmers? No. Can they swim? Yes. Do they love to be in the water and do water things? Yes. Currently, they're doing jiu-jitsu and wrestling, which I love. I love the jiu-jitsu aspect of it. I love to kind of sit and watch them and learn how to. It doesn't take a hit. It doesn't take anything physical or harming. It just is a way to take control. And what they learn in their classes are, if you're approached by a bully or a bad person, like how are you going to protect yourself? And it doesn't mean punching them, And so I like that aspect of it. I like that it's teaching them how to use their bodies. And I know in the boys class that they're in, the jiu-jitsu class, and their instructors, there's so much discipline. And I love it. Like the boys have been in it since they were about 5, and the fact that the instructors, they're having fun with the kids, but there's just that discipline to it. So it's teaching them. Now, unfortunately, when they get home, they don't listen as well. Your dirty clothes do not go on the floor. Your towel gets hung up. Put your shoes away. Somebody needs to feed the dog. Somebody needs to walk the dog. And as a mom, it's like you're saying it over, and it takes about 10 times. Did you hear me? Did you hear me? Are you done eating your dinner? Put your plate in. And they're at that age now where it's like they have tasks. Like, I am not your servant. I am not picking your plate up. You need to go put it in the sink. I didn't ask you to wash it. I just need you to put it in the sink. If you want water, if you want juice, you know how to open the fridge. Get it yourself. But then, of course, I do baby them a little bit because they are. And I'll call them, oh, you're my sweet baby boy. No, I'm not a baby anymore. And I'm like, you will always be my babies. But no, you're right. I mean, getting a little off tangent. No, swimming is a part of who I am, and longevity in life. I love seeing articles of like person in their 90s or a 100-year-old recently that went to U.S. Masters and swam a mile.
Yeah,
like,
I saw that.
Oh my goodness. Or, the 80-year-old woman that finished a marathon. I again, you're in the tri world and work with a number of, Iron Women and Iron Man and they're like, oh, you should do one. And I'm like, yeah, it would be great. I am the endurance athlete. It's not the time. It's not the 8 hours or whatever it would take. And it's not the training. It's certainly not the distance of the swim. But you know what gets me every single time?
The bicycle?
No. I'm like, the bicycle physical, okay, you're kind of, the running.
Oh, really?
26
miles, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, but we're talking about the full Ironman.
Yeah, full. And I'm like, okay, well, I have run like a half marathon, and then, but every time I finish that, I go, I would have to do another one of those.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't know. I think I'm doubting myself, and maybe there will be a time that I will eventually. I'm never gonna say never. I'm definitely saying it would be really cool, and I would honestly. I mean, to put it's kind of like the Olympic ring tattoo.
Yeah.
You know, like you get to put that on,
I
and
know,
it's like I could put the Ironman tattoo on. Like, are you gonna get any more tattoos? I'm like, never say never.
Yeah.
They gotta have a reason. They gotta have a purpose.
Right.
Of course, that would be a huge purpose, and I'm like, man, that would be kind of cool. Like, I don't see myself ever being like, oh, I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna do this one. It probably would be like a one and a done. But it's like, man, would I ever be able to really do it? Would my body hold up? Would my knees? Would my feet? Like, my body, I think over the years has kind of morphed to swimming. And and as people listen to this, they're gonna laugh. But people that know me, that I fully believe that I'm a mermaid. Like, there's a it's not mental health, okay? It's just, but my body has just, through all the years of swimming, it kind of adapts to that. I mean, you look at like the flexibility of Michael Phelps and his knees and all those types of things. I think as we do things, our body kind of forms into that. So I do have some like double jointed feet, double jointed knees, so the running is very hard on me, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't be up to the challenge. But
and the training, during the training, you will find out, before you even do it.
And I would just do it to complete it.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, nothing more. Probably walk a little bit in the 26.2. Like, if my whole run was like under 10-minute mile pace, I would be pretty good. But that's scary to me.
It's scary.
It's a little bit of a fear that I kind of need to
and that's so
tackle.
I'm so glad you're saying this because again, you are so approachable, and every time I have an open water swim race and people are like, oh my god, that's Brooke Bennett, and I go, yeah, you can say hi. She's gonna say hi back to you. She's not gonna be like, hey, don't talk to me, and that's something that you're showing right now. You're showing that you won 3 gold medals, and you're with the best of the best back then, and still you're still involved with the new Olympians, and but then here you are talking about like, oh, I don't know if I can do a full Ironman. So that's awesome because it shows the human side of you, the normal. You're a person too, and we all are vulnerable at some point, and we have disabilities here and there, and injuries, and it's so awesome that you show that side of you. So people who will be listening or watching will understand that there's things that are possible that you can do.
Right. Well, and I'll say in just your group and going out on Clearwater Beach on a Saturday morning, and the boys getting to play and I getting to go swim. What's so great, I think, about this community, and whether it's the tri community, the open water community, it's just a community that's active, and to see it grow and flourish, and you're part of it, but just every aspect of life is out there, to the accomplishment of doing their first half mile, or their accomplishment of doing their first open water swim. I think those are great. So our website is cfypinellas.org, and we kind of look at our website and we update it. We're working on new things, and that really is our front door. We're a very small staff, 4 full-timers and a part-timer, which is kind of a close-knit group, and we all have a history. Our program manager played basketball at Missouri, actually is the all-time points leader at Largo High School, Eric Harris. And then our administrative director, Kit Dunbar, now Kit Lenz, played softball at USF. So we all have a history of sports, and we all have that story and took our sports to a high level and played. So then when we get to work together and we have our areas that we focus on within CFY, it really comes together. And I think our mission is expressed in that. And I've sat on a couple of boards here and there in my time or been asked to be involved, but I will say from our board of trustees and our board, we have a very active board. We are looking to expand that board. So I would say if anybody was interested in being a part of us or volunteering or anything, they could certainly reach out to me. My email address is Brooke@CFY Pinellas. So super easy, it's on the website. But yeah, I mean, just go there and see what we're doing and see what we're doing in the community. And, you know, I think so many things about CFY that I've learned is not a lot of people know, which is not a bad thing. I look at it, and I even said this when I first came in, even though we have a history and CFY has been around for 50 years, we've changed. Originally it was the program. So kids played Clearwater for Youth basketball, Clearwater for Youth football. Now we are able to and are helping facilitate over 30 programs within Pinellas County. 8 youth football programs. We have 5 baseball, softball programs. Radiant Aquatics out of Clearwater. We have supported and helped through equipment grants with Coach Kyle, equipment grants and travel grants, basketball programs. We have a program affiliated with Pinellas County Sheriff's, their PAL program, and we've actually funded and helped them get back their boxing program out of Lellman, which is an area kind of just stuck in Pinellas County. It's not known as a great area, but we've put over $35,000 into that program for them to start the boxing after school program. I went down there one day to visit and hang out with the coach and the kids, and it's just moving. And when you get into areas and youth like this that need something so much, and you can be a positive influence on them, they are like a sponge. Kids are like a sponge. So whatever they can get exposed to, if they're exposed to something bad, they're going to absorb it. But if they can be put into something good, they're going to absorb that. And being down there and seeing that program and allowing Pinellas County Sheriff's to start that up, and we've helped fund that over the last 2 years, has been huge. And those kids in that program and the coach, you talk about passion, and you get these coaches in there, and he's passionate about helping the kids. Keith Thurman, who's the former heavyweight boxer, actually from Clearwater, lives in St. Pete. I believe he has, I know he has a fight coming up soon, but he's learned about CFY. He has come out. He has personally worked with the kids who will pop in. So, you know, again, it's the who's of the who's in the area that are helping today's youth.
Yeah, no, as a layman is amazing. I work and I help with the Dream Center.
Okay.
And the human trafficking problem and homelessness in that area is insane, and people don't, you have no idea when you drive by.
Nope, because it sits back and it's just kind of stuck in there, and it's a little spot that you wouldn't even know was there, and it's kind of in that northeast area, and then everybody thinks, oh, Short Acres and things, but what's in that area, and that there's families and there's kids living there that need that positive influence in their life.
Yeah. Well, wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm glad we got to do this.
Yeah. One community local heroes, talking about local heroes, and I know it's you, but then it's your whole team, and like you said, that coach, but it's incredible to have your leadership, behind all that, and keep doing great things for our community.
I will. I definitely will.
Thank you, my friend. I love you.
Love you. Thank you.